Well, it's certainly springtime in Tassie. Temperatures crashed, the winds are coming up from the southwest, and we're about to finish our walk into Wynyard, so come with us. Like, subscribe and comment. Definitely getting closer to Table Cape, which is on the other side of Wynyard, and that'll be subject to a separate video because there's a nice walk up there and a tulip farm. But let's get moving. Line of rocks there for the higher tides, and you can see where it's broken through in places. Good enough reason not to swim here. As you can see from the sky, it's fairly clear out that way. To the west where we're heading, less so to the southwest, so hopefully we can beat any showers. Some attractive but weedy plants, and the everywhere daisies. You can see from the green algae, I guess, growing on the rocks there, that there are a lot more nutrients here. A little bit of a viewing platform up here. We'll wander out and have a look. The thing is, with the winds coming up from the northwest, they're basically coming off Antarctica, and they're fresh, I can confirm. The Port Creek Pause Place. Quite a pleasant view from here. We'll stop when we get too much flaring from the sun. There you go. Wide expanse and sandy beach there. And the weather looking a bit, in the background, with a rainbow. Oh, the path continues on, and we'll start to hit a bit more of civilization as we get closer to town. Coming up on Port Creek, or the bridge over it, again flowing reasonably gently. We can follow the suburban route into town, but we'll stick to the coastal path. No camping, no bushfire, no bushfire, no campfires. Not sure if we're picking that up. I think we are. It's the other end of the rainbow. Quite interesting patterns in these, of light and dark through these trees. There you go. Just starting to get rained on. There's a playground in the distance there with some shelter sheds I'll head towards. A brook crossing down to the beach. And there you can see the playground within striking distance. A little bit of rain between here and the Cape. Another soul silly enough to be out in this weather. There's the shelter sheds, kids' playground, and public lavatories. Shot of the kids' playground behind us. Okay, so I've just had a look at the radar, and that should be the end of the rain, at least for a couple of hours. So I'll leave the lee of the toilet block and head back onto the coastal path. It offered better protection than these shelter sheds without walls. Those ones there. Pathway through to the beach, we might just have a quick detour. Surprisingly, Table Cape's in the background. Dominates the ocean here. Just a little pan of the area for you. Past our old favourite, Table Cape. Round towards the mouth of the Wynyard River. And a fairly wide, broad expanse of beach, which is an off-lead for dogs area. Heading back to the path. Have a quick look in here. You've got your standard picnic table, and of course the free barbie. A little bit of info on those rock shelves out there. Again, up to 300 million years old. Chaotic mix left about because of glacial activity. It's quite an interesting place if you're into geology. Back to the path. And as is standard, don't swim unless you know what you're doing, and most of the time people don't. Another Norfolk Island pine here, and sun is definitely well and truly out now. Out of the breeze, and in the sun it's quite warm. The key part there is out of the breeze. So these little numbers along here. Another and another and another. They're the stall sites for the markets they have here at least once a month, probably twice I think. And the whole strip here with the grass is covered with stalls. Never much that appeals to me other than the coffee, but they seem to do a fair trade. Not much along here, and we're certainly copping those Antarctic breezes. So I think I'll move and walk along the beach. And already I can feel the temperature rising once the breeze is gone. There's still plenty of wind out here, but just with that little cover afforded by the tree line, warms it up just enough to make it comfortable. Lots of stuff tossed up, old seaweed bits and sticks and who knows what else might be worth bringing the metal detector down. Into the harder packed sand that's been subjected to the high tide, much easier on the ankles. And just see a seagull popping up out of it's like a stormwater drain. There he is. And there's the stormwater drain near him. I shudder to think what goodness he thinks he's going to catch out of that. Well, a set of public lavatories up here. And there's a little park and resting area. Hope you can hear the waves in the background. They're quite gentle. So as we approach those facilities there, we'll get back onto the path because it has its own cover there as well. There's nice views of the ocean. You can see the size of the stones that get thrown up here in a high tide with some force. This looks like a pathway off the beach to the coastal path. And indeed it is. There's the path ahead and, funnily enough, Table Cape in the background. Tricky to see with the sun where it is, but this is a sensitive bird breeding area. A lot of work goes into conservation, considering how much has been damaged. We're doing all right to bring back as much as we can and save what we've already got. A sensory garden here. This is new. We're both seeing it with fresh eyes as we look. Quite a nice idea. Seems appropriate today. Wind, feel the breeze. Lift your face to the wind, let it gently brush your skin and carry the scents of the garden. Listen as it whispers through the leaves, bringing movement, memory and a moment of peace. Which is very poetic and whatnot. However, the fact that I'm having trouble feeling my fingers with the breeze tends to lessen the poetic nature of it. Now, the last time I was along here, it was all boardwalk. I appear to have concreted it, which is very nice. Much better if you're in a wheelchair. Probably doesn't make much difference if you're on a push bike, it just makes it a smoother ride. Some accommodation there on the left with a view of everything out there across the strait. Very pleasant. We will be coming across a lot more dog walkers, I suspect. It's just gone 9 o'clock. Although that looks like a whippersnipper up there. We'll have a look when we get closer. Yes, whippersnippering. I believe it's called strimming in the UK and perhaps weed whacking in the US. It's a good thing we've all got a common language. Our old friend getting quite close now. And as suggested, puppies. Now the point of clearing the grass from beside the path is, particularly coming into summer, got a better view of snakes that might be about. And they have been spotted here. We'll just take a detour off here through the scrub. Well, ground cover anyway. So that's looking back to where we've come from, East Wynyard Beach. That's looking out across the strait to Victoria, Table Cape, round to the Wynyard River. Over on the far bank is yet another golf course. Every town has to have one. And coastal path continues on up to the Wynyard Sailing Club and then along the river walk, so we'll follow that. Quite an impressive yacht club. More sailing than yachts, but always called a yacht club. Little pontoon out there for launching yachts and dinghies and whatnot, and also a spot for fishing. Really quite pleasant in the sun. As I say, we're on the coastal trail. This is officially the Wynyard waterfront, and it's used by quite a few different types of people. Runners, walkers, push bicyclists, and of course dog walkers. A little bit of a fishing fleet and pleasure craft up there on the marina. We'll get round to those after we've done the river walk. A little bridge over a tributary of the Wynyard River. Not sure the name of it. If you do, drop it in the comments. Flowing reasonably quickly, but not torrentially. Can get quite high when there's been an awful lot of rain. It does seem to have passed quickly, this last week's events. And just so you know, motel along the side here and the river on the other side. Now that's something you don't see every day, but it turns out we might be seeing more of today. Lazy seagull enjoying the summer sun, well, springtime sun. Another happy rock. I don't know what these are about, but as I look down the line of footpath lighting, there are rocks everywhere. We might not bother with all of them, but I'll get some shots of the interesting ones. There you go. Self-praise is faint praise. For the consumption of breakfasts. Mainly coffee, bacon and eggs, I would imagine. There we are, the marina a bit closer now. This one seems to appeal for some reason. Quite a pleasant walk along here. Again, the whole thing from Burnie is wheelchair, bicycle and tricycle safe. Yep, can confirm it's spring. And not an unpleasant walk on foot. The old Shanks pony. Vessels at mooring. And the last one on the river walk. My error. This is the last one on the river walk. Those vessels there we were looking at on the way in. But we have more commercial ones over here. A motor sailor there. And what looks like a fairly serious fishing boat. With cray pots and whatnot. A few cray pots on there. The one here, called the Taro perhaps, or the Lynn Tralee. I suspect it's a serious fishing boat as well. Different equipment. Now the walk continues in along that bend in the river and up on the hill there. There's a couple of medium field guns. That was the subject of one of my earliest videos, so I'll link that at the end. But we're walking up into town because I have an urge for a caffeine-based beverage. And it's quite a pleasant small country town. An old bank building in the impressiveness style, I guess. It's no longer a bank, very few left outside of the capital cities. It's now a restaurant called The Vault. Guttridge Gardens in there, again, public facilities. There's a view of Guttridge Gardens and a zigzag path if you're pushing a wheelchair or a pram. Spring plantings, getting ready for the Tulip Festival next weekend. And there's a confirmation, some tulips. A little bit weather affected, but still rather attractive. And definitely springtime. More tulips. Main drag of Wynyard. And up this way is my preferred coffee shop in town. Ex-Army ambulance. It's now registered privately in Queensland, but they've kept the decoration. Getting closer. Can almost taste the coffee. And there's the Tulip Festival I was talking about. Another bit of tulips over there. And you can see the seats at the coffee shop called Umami. And here she be. It's good coffee. I highly recommend this place. Who's this walk for? Well, all the way from Burnie to here. You could do it on foot, on push bike, wheelchair, pram, any way you want it. So if you're fit enough to do it, well, you can break it up into chunks like I did, because it was just too much to I've basically done double the length because I parked, walked back. So highly recommended.